So hello to YouTube and the Star Wars fandom and the Star Wars anti-fandom, because we are all out in force today. First two episodes of the Acolyte dropped yesterday. I keep trying to say Alkalite as like it's alchemy, I guess, but it's Acolyte. I watched the first episode last night, and I just finished episode 2 this morning. I watched half of the Real Rejects reaction before I watched episode 2, and I'm going to go back and watch part 2 when I finish recording here. My immediate gut reaction was that it was pretty solid. Nothing absurdly inflammatory or wildly lore-breaking or supremely out of character for the franchise. I give it a B+. Short story. You can go ahead and click elsewhere if you want, if that's all you needed. I do have some minor quibbles that I'll get to. So yeah, it's not the greatest life-altering science fiction that you're ever going to see. But it's also not going to utterly ruin your childhood or destroy your favorite franchise as a child, unless attractive Force users and some subverted expectations are absolute deal breakers for you. Unless you have a toddler's mentality, I'm not sure what there is to actively hate about the first 2 episodes. There is some speculation, and I've seen some leaks about episodes 3 and 4. I wish I hadn't, but and there was also some ideas that I had going after episode 1 and going through episode 2 that I'm gonna get to, that I think might be what's leading some people to dislike it so actively. But let's get to some of the things I liked. The first and biggest thing about it that I liked were the fights. The fight choreography was really, really well done. Nothing was cartoonish or absurd. Some of the parkour moves, some of the wire work was obvious, but only because you start to look for it when you're a media dork. The Indara, Master Indara, and May fight, so good. The Force Fu, so good. The bringing out the lightsaber to counter the additional threats, so good. The subversion of expectations, less good. But by the beginning of episode 2, it was so in the back of my mind that it didn't matter anymore. And we will get further into that further in this video. But that fight scene was very well done. The May and Soul fight scene was also very well done. The way they portray the Jedi Masters as just calm and in control. I played the West End 6-sided dice Star Wars game back in the day, like late 80s back in the day. And the Force was broken down into control, sense, and alter. And these Jedi Masters are exhibiting the heck out of some control. The Master Tobin and May fight was also extraordinary. Another subversion of expectations. This one bothered me less initially, but also was probably more influential on the overall narrative. And the overall narrative seems like it seems pretty obvious the direction it's going, but I also really like it. The twins, they're actually another thing that I very, very much like. Their portrayal, the subtle differences and dramatic differences between the two, and the design of the characters themselves are really, really well done. With the exception of one wonky line, and I'm not sure if it was how it was written or how it was delivered or how it was directed, or how it was produced. But there was one line of, I think it was OSHA of the two that was using it, or that said it, and I can't remember which one, but I remember thinking, ooh, that came across really flat. Hardly a deal breaker. Again, I gave it a B+. Nothing's perfect. Another thing that I really liked, the interiors of the bar cantinas are always good in Star Wars. Cluttered, full of the aliens, good stuff. The interiors of the ships have been extremely well done so far. I like that they seem lived in. At first, I thought that my internet was acting up, but they actually have applied a film grain, so it looks like a jazzed up version of the original trilogy as far as the film technique, which is actually a pretty welcome addition once I realized that my internet wasn't just running a little slow. The other thing that I really, really liked is that, well, two more things, but one was that they rarely dropped into humor. There were a few chuckle moments, but they avoided the trap of falling into quippiness and forced jokes. It's very much a drama. It is a drama in the style of Star Wars. You've got your wipe cuts. You've got your abrupt scene endings, and now we're just somewhere else, and it is what it is. That's how Star Wars. That's part of the Star Wars style that I dislike long term. But it's not something that hurts the. It's not something that hurts the effort they put in here. One other thing that I really, really like is how they're portraying the Jedi. It's pretty neat to me seeing them complacent, seeing them on their high horses, I suppose. This is where it seems obvious where the plot is going. But again, I like where it seems like it's going. And given that they've subverted my expectations twice in the first two episodes, they might subvert it again with the greater plot. There is a darker, deeper mystery behind the OSHA May incident in their childhood. And I'm pretty sure I know where it's going to lead, and we're going to get to that at the end. But first I want to go over a few things that I disliked, because I am not a Disney stan. I enjoy Marvel and Star Wars content for what it is, escapist fantasy and science fiction. But there are some things that are worth griping about. Most of them are pretty minor. The one line of OSHA's that was wonky as hell. The massive subversion of expectations at the beginning of episode 1. Again, I got over it by the beginning of episode 2. But initially I was... Spoilers from this point forward. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Carrie-Anne Moss was supposed to be like the star of the show. And I know we're going to see her in flashbacks, and I know we're going to see her maybe in a Force Ghost. But that was very surprising to me. And about 2/3 of the way through their fight, I was like, oh shit. The rumors were right. The speculation was right. But again, I got over it. It was well done. I liked seeing someone at the height of their confidence lose to something as simple as taking their eye off the prize, but also compassion. So that was well done, but it did annoy me in the moment, and I can see it really annoying other people in the moment. I mentioned how good some of the set work was earlier, but there were a few moments, one in particular, that I did not care for. The little ice cave, ice tunnel onto the rip off of The Fugitive with Osha and Soul in the ice tunnel, and the cave entrance into the giant ravine. It just looked fake. It looked made of styrofoam and spray painted. Not all sets are going to be amazing, but that one really took me out of that moment. Along with that, the snow effects and wind effects on that planet were almost laughably bad. Not enough to ruin the episode, certainly not enough to ruin the series, but in the moment, it took me out of it. The one last thing is the very end of episode 2. After the Kelnaka Jedi Wookiee is introduced. Pretty badass scene. Scares the living piss out of a couple of scavengers. And then the camera pans to behind Kelnaka as he walks into his home. And it is so clearly just a tall man in a Sasquatch suit. It almost looks like footy pajamas that he's wearing. Clearly their entire budget didn't go into that scene. And that was enough to take me out of that scene a little bit. Now those are 4 quibbles, minor issues that I had. And now I want to get into where I think it's heading in the next couple of episodes, because I know media and influencers have seen the first 4. And I know in particular episode 3 has been called the worst thing that's ever happened to Star Wars by some inflammatory turds that pop into my YouTube feed because I'm a freaking chronically online loser myself. But I've heard through various interviews and things that there will be a group of Force users that are using the Force differently than the Jedi. Not evil, not good, just different. And that the Jedi obviously had problems with that. My assumption is this is where May and Osha have come from. And given the largely, at this point, anti-woke, angry manosphere group that are, yelling about the Acolyte being terrible and ruining Star Wars and ruining their childhoods and ruining America. Given that they're the ones that are fired up about episode 3 and that up until today they couldn't talk about it, and I have not looked yet because I quite frankly don't want to know until I can see it myself next week. But I suspect there is some sort of we'll call it a coven of Force users. And I suspect they have used the Force to manipulate their cells in a way to impregnate themselves without men using the Force, is my best guess. Because there are elements of the manosphere and the right-wing, anti-woke culture that are losing their minds about what they've seen in episodes 3 and 4. So that's my best guess, is that May and Osha came from a lesbian couple that used the Force to conceive. I just don't see the controversy. Using technology, we can do that now. The things people get worked up about. So anyway, like I said at the beginning, I give it a B+. Not quite an A-, but a B+, solid B+, 88. I'm intrigued by where it's going. I suspect that the Jedi Masters were intervening in the Coven's doings, and that May saw them as a threat to her mothers and reacted, and that is how the fire started. And May sees the Jedi as responsible, and the Jedi see May as responsible. But given Tobin's subversion in episode 2, Master Tobin, I assume that the Jedi did some not so great things that they are feeling rather guilty about. And Sol may or may not have been involved. He may or may not know all of the details of what happened at the time. He may have been caught up in rescuing Osha. I don't know yet. But I'm going to stay open-minded about where the story's going. I think it's interesting. I like the idea of the Jedi not being a monolithic force for good. I like shades of gray in my morality. So yeah, that was Star Wars The Acolyte, episodes 1 and 2. I thought it was pretty good. I look forward to seeing more. And I'm curious what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. Let's make this interesting. I will literally respond to every single person that comments to this. Give me a like, sub if you want. I'm going to keep doing this long term, I think. It's fun. I'm enjoying it. Whether it turns into something big or not, I'm enjoying doing what I'm doing here. And I hope that y'all are enjoying being here. So yeah, my name's Tim. Glad you came. Hope to see you again. Take care.